a Netflix original film.
The Wi-Fi isn't working.
In the event of a global communications breakdown, do the following. Stay inside.
What just happened here is happening everywhere.
Avoid strangers.
We've all been deserted.
I don't trust them.
And most importantly, do not panic. Julia Roberts.
What happens next?
Mahershala Ali.
I knew something was coming.
Leave the World Behind. Rated R. In select theaters now and on Netflix December 8th.
Today on CityCast Chicago. Chicago's young people have a whole lot on their plates between navigating school and extracurriculars, the crib, and their communities. They also often face tough criticism from the media and city officials. So when the former Mayor Lightfoot announced the Youth Commission in 2019, the hope was young people would have some small form of representation in city government. Now, in its fifth cohort, we sit down with two current members to ask what Chicago's youth need from the city and check in on the progress of the commission. It's Thursday, December 7th. I'm Jacoby Cochran, and this is what Chicago's talking about. The Mayor's Youth Commission is a group of Chicagoans aged 14 to 19 who work to advise the mayor and city leaders on the things and issues that the youth across our city care about. It was founded in 2019, and we're now in our fifth cohort. And we're welcoming two of the chairs across this panel. We've got Precious Adedokin, the chair of the Public Safety Group, and Benjamin Kagan, chair of the Public Health Working Group. Welcome to CityCast Chicago, y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Very excited to have y'all. Precious, I'm going to start with you. Can you tell our CityCast listeners how old you are, what school you go to, and what neighborhood do you live in? Because since I'm talking about Youth Commission, I want the listener to know y'all is fresh out of school. So I know y'all have had a long day.
Yeah, so I'm 16 years old. I go to Chicago Math and Science Academy, and I live in Rogers Park.
Benjamin, same question to you. How old are you? What school do you go to? And what neighborhood do you live in?
Sure. I'm 17 years old. I go to Francis W. Parker School, and I live in the Lakeview neighborhood.
So when you looked into it and you sort of got into the details, can you share with people how exactly does the Mayor's Youth Commission work? Benjamin, we're only in our fifth cohort, so it's relatively new. So some people might not be familiar with it.
So the Mayor's Youth Commission is a group of 40 teens from across the city who are selected to represent intentionally diverse communities so that we're gathering perspective and opinion from across the entire city. Every time we meet, we hear from incredible guest speakers, and each working group has a chance to meet in person and share their thoughts and ideas in addition to the meetings that we have virtually. But one of the great things about our in-person meetings is that we often consult for different city departments on a wide variety of different issues that they have. And those are some of my favorite times within the Mayor's Youth Commission because we get to directly impact the way in which policy is shaped in Chicago. And our policymakers are listening to the ideas that we as young people have and are taking them and really bringing about change in Chicago in a positive way based on what we as kids are saying.
Sort of taking it out of the commission and into the classroom, when you're talking with your peers, what are people saying they need from the city or the type of resources they'd like?
Yeah, so one of the greatest needs that has been brought to my attention within my school is where to find good resources for mental health. Obviously, there's a lot of things that are bouncing around on Instagram these days, and there always is a large amount of stuff going on social media. So that's one large issue, is just figuring out what exactly is a good place to be getting your information from. And then it's also, again, some of those graphics that are going around, understanding what's misinformation and what's true. And then also one of the biggest things that we tackled last year was helping people find care. There are these resources at the city level, but teens our age just don't know about them. I was on the Mayor's Youth Commission, and before talking with a city staffer, there were all of these resources that I didn't know about until I was told about them. And so it's fantastic that all these programs exist, but I really wish that, more kids knew about all these things. And so that's really one of our biggest goals is helping to amplify these programs that do already exist that not many people know about.
Precious, I wanted to pose a similar question to you. Some of the issues that the Public Safety Group is working on are obviously being talked about not only on this commission, but in community circles amongst young people all the time in our city. And I think about how demonized young people across this city, especially when we're thinking about on the south and the west sides of the city. When you think over the summer, it's like, oh, this is a teen takeover. When we think about public safety, there's this talking down on young people. How do you see that play out when you talk to your friends, when you talk to people on the commission? Like, do they understand it? Like, what does that look like?
So with the people I've talked about, I would say that pissed off is probably what they feel because they feel like they're being painted in a picture that not all teens in Chicago are really doing. Like the teen takeover, yes, that was some of them, but that's not all of us. And like when we had that curfew where we couldn't go to Millennium Park after a specific time, that didn't really sit right with us because we felt that we're not the only ones in Chicago that's technically doing things that are considered bad. Like there's adults going around doing things that's not really taken care of. With my friends that I talk with now, they talk about how adults, if they're talking about problems, they're not really taken as seriously. Like if we're talking about an issue that someone may say that's an adult issue, they feel they're not really be listened to and their problems are not actually they're not really being taken accountable for them for solutions to be created, I would say.
So you guys are chairs of two different working groups. I know you all have a commission-wide agenda and plan when you come together. But Benjamin, in your smaller group, when you're thinking about public health, what are some of the issues you all work on particularly?
Yeah, in the past, we've worked on mental health more specifically. We've also obviously looked into COVID and the flu, other rampant illnesses. And right now, we're looking into working on mental health again this year. Last year, we noticed that there was an incredible increase in mental health issues for teens and young adults, in addition to the general population of Chicago. And so what we wanted to do is create some resources for these folks to help them feel better equipped to address some of these difficult situations. The Public Health Working Group released a series of mental health videos, and then we also released a mental health landing page that is now hosted within the My Shine, My Future website at the city level. So that's what we did in the past, but right now we're working to figure out what our big initiatives for the year are, but we're more than likely going to be focusing on public health and how to make sure that all kids in Chicago feel like they have the resources to address mental health issues they may be having.
Precious, when your smaller group is meeting and it's around public safety, right, which is two words that get thrown around in our city a lot, what are some of the issues you all are working on?
So right now, I say like the main thing when it comes to community safety, we think about gun violence, especially in youth where they have access to guns and they're not really, I'll say, well, like when we think of youth, they're probably going to be in school learning, but not every youth has that opportunity. So that kind of leads to youth dying from gun violence or end up in jail. So we came to a consensus that vacant lots in Chicago are one of the places that harbor dangerous actions. There could be drug use or just straight up violence just currently happening in those areas. So we decided we should work with different like city lawmakers and different places that have private lots and how they have access to them, use them and change them into youth plazas or places where youth can come together and do like actual supportive things. This could be playing basketball, doing homework, doing anything that has to do with taking the youth off the street. And on top of that, we also looked at other parts of safety that's not really focused on. Like right now, we're talking about gender-based violence in Chicago. We don't really see much initiatives being taken upon that problem, and we're trying to see what can we do. So that possibly might be an idea that we might focus on. And also right now with all like the hate crimes that's going on, like with Palestinian people, Jewish people, how they're facing crime that they shouldn't even be facing in the first place just because people have some sort of hatred towards them. And those are like the top specific things in safety that we feel that's kind of a problem in Chicago, and we're just trying to really deep dive more into them.
And I say this next part not to be, I hope it doesn't come off as condescending, but like gun violence, gender-based violence, hate crimes across, whether we're talking about Palestinian or Jewish individuals, right? These are some I'm gonna just say it, these are some big ass problems, right? How do you all create space in those meetings to learn about these issues, to hear one another? Because right, these impact your friends, your classmates, people within your family, people within your community. How do you all make space to start those conversations?
Yeah, definitely. So, like for us specifically in our meetings, we first kind of ask each other, what do we know about the situation first to kind of educate ourselves. And at the same time, we have to make sure that we're holding ourselves accountable, not saying things that's kind of like out of proportion. Like, like for me, example, we wanted to have a question on immigration, and I noticed that my wording of the question was not really as it should be, and I was held accountable by one of my group members that yes, it's a good question, but we should probably word it in a different way that doesn't come off in a weird way, I would say. And yeah, because each of us, we all have our own information on these problems. Some may have been affected by gun violence more than I have, or gender-based violence, or some sort of problem with hate crime. So we're just trying to really push that out with more information that one person may have that I don't, to kind of create like a pool of all of this, I would say.
How has it felt, Precious, to be a part of the Youth Commission under two different administrations, right? This was started under Lori Lightfoot, and now it's continuing under Mayor Brandon Johnson. Have there been any changes or differences from your perspective?
So since like the change kind of happened in between our cohort, we had to adjust between the people who worked with Lori to now the people who work with Mayor Brandon Johnson. So that was kind of like a transition. And when we were working on our new ideas, we kind of had to speed that up a bit so we can have that in time for Ms. Lori Lightfoot to read it to see what we actually done in our cohort. And for this year, we definitely do see a lot of changes for different changes in people who work in the city of Chicago. And for our group, it used to be called public safety, but that was now a change to become community safety to kind of have that feeling that we're focusing on community specifically to kind of put Chicago as a whole.
Yeah, so there definitely were some staffing changes within who was working with us. All of the Mayor's Youth Commission staff members under the Lightfoot administration worked directly in the mayor's office, and now only one of them does, which has definitely made things interesting, and also helped us to become better in certain ways, but it's also been tricky in certain ways. Now the working group staff lead for the public health working group actually works directly for the Chicago Department of Public Health instead of working for the mayor's office, which has been great for my group. But I know that it's also presented some difficulties when being the Mayor's Youth Commission and getting access to folks who are mayor's office people. But we do have one staff member who does work directly for the mayor's office still, which is fantastic. One of the other things that I guess I've noticed during the transition is a concern amongst commissioners and amongst the staff members that less attention would be paid by the Johnson administration to the commission, and that has absolutely not been true. His administration decided to grow the commission from 32 members to 40 members, and we had an incredible number of applications this past year to join the group. I know there was a lot of concern about the commission going away or something like that, but Mayor Johnson has really been invested in the Mayor's Youth Commission, and Mayor Lightfoot was fantastic as well, founding the group.
You've mentioned at different times that during your meeting you'll have some policymakers, some public officials come in. How does the Youth Commission, Benjamin, interact with these different people, even residents as well?
So there's actually a specific format that we go through when policymakers come in to have discussions with the Mayor's Youth Commission about whatever policy matter it is that they would like our perspective on. So they literally come in and really explaining their issue. Then we have an opportunity to ask them questions. They have an opportunity to clarify what's going on. And then there's a time where we as young people are allowed to just talk unmoderated, just us having a conversation. The policymakers are sitting there listening, but they're not allowed to speak. And that's really the place where the best ideas come from, where we as teens can talk amongst each other and talk as a larger group and say, hey, I have this one idea because this is something that's been brought up in my community. And someone else can feed off of that idea and help to really create some of the best collaborative ideas that really help to improve policy within Chicago.
Mm-hmm. Precious, in addition to them getting to listen, have you had any interactions where you feel like you've been able to hold officials accountable, even if that's just through letting them know, how you feel personally?
Yeah, so kind of like going back to what Benjamin said, when one person starts sharing their ideas, I feel like more people start talking, and sharing like the problems that they have. So when we were talking to them, we kind of tell that for some of them that they're actually listening, especially when they're able to create a solution on the spot to what that problem might be.
And just to add on to what Precious said, last month we also had a local alderman come in to speak to us. And one of the things that he did that I really appreciated was calling out things within city council that he thought needed improvement. And I feel like that so rarely comes from our politicians nowadays. And it was really nice to hear someone saying like, yes, this is a problem and I am working to fix it, as opposed to just saying like, everything that's in place now is great. It was just incredible as young people to have this experience of listening to this person share what he thinks need to be changed in Chicago.
You had gone from working with people across the city during the pandemic to getting more involved through this commission. Has this been an effective way for you to not only get involved, but how would you want to see it grow for the next group of young people?
Yeah, my experience on the commission has been nothing short of fantastic. I've really appreciated the opportunity to speak with policymakers and really feel like our voice is being taken into consideration with pretty much any city policy that's being put in place. What I would like to see is just more consultancies where we're actually helping policymakers, and also the opportunity for us as commissioners to write policy initiatives for the city that can be taken to city council and actually enacted. I know that I had an idea for a policy initiative last year, and the city's lawyers said that it had to go through the state government, and that's something I'm working on right now. But it was really a fantastic opportunity for me as a young person to write policy and bring it to the city and say, hey, can we move this forward, and just bring up more things that we see going on in our communities and look to find possible solutions.
Again, Benjamin Kagan is chair of the Public Health Working Group, and Precious Adedokin is chair of Community Safety Group. I appreciate y'all making time for CityCast today.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Kobe.
Before I let you go, today is your last day to vote in the first round of our Chris Kendall Market Mug Bracket. To choose which mug you think is the best, head to chicago.citycast.fm or check the link in the show notes. We'll publish results there over the next few weeks and in our daily Hey Chicago newsletter, so make sure you subscribe. Now, I got some good news for you. Tomorrow night, Pilsen Community Books is hosting 4 Writing Pilsen in Mexican Chicago with 4 amazing authors, Joel Mendez, Pablo Ramirez, Antonio Zavala, and Mark Zimmerman. Each author will read a little from their books and stick around for a Q&A. For more information, you can check our show notes. As always, we appreciate you for reading and listening. We're going to be back bright and early tomorrow. Hopefully you'll join us. Peace.